In this video, I'm going to show you why you must avoid lectins. Hello and welcome to Total Health with Dr. Nick, where my purpose is to inspire, empower, and motivate you to live longer, healthier, and more abundant lives. And if you like what we're talking about today, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you click that little bell notification so you get notified anytime I do a video. And also too, guys, if you're looking for some help with the keto diet and don't know where to start, it seems overwhelming, it's daunting, but yet you want to jump in, check out my keto course. I think you'll find it's the best anywhere. The link is down below. And also too, if you're looking for a really great cookbook that's simple, where the recipes are clean, easy to make, and absolutely delicious, check out my cookbook, Kiss Keto is Super Simple. One last thing, a lot of you have been wanting to work with me. You can check out a link down below I have where we can set up a conference call and we can see if there's something we can help you out with. Well guys, let's go ahead and get started on why you should avoid lectins. Well, lectins are these little buggers that people sometimes don't know if they're allergic to and don't even realize maybe that they're allergic to them or have issues with them because they don't connect the two. They don't connect the dots and say, wow, I didn't realize that my brain fog was because of something I'm eating or my fibromyalgia or all the other symptoms that we're going to be talking about. But yes, they could be coming from lectins. So guys, in a nutshell, if you're sick way too often, have allergies or skin conditions, or you suffer with terrible indigestion no matter what you eat, you most likely are dealing with intolerance to lectins. And like I said, there's a whole lot of symptoms that we're going to be going over that I think you'll find astounding, amazing, and just maybe clarifying for the first time in your life. You're sitting there going, well, maybe that's why that I've been really feeling bad. My wife talks about this all the time. She'll say, I've had this love-hate relationship with food. I love it, but I don't feel well after I eat it. I have a stomach ache, or I get brain fog, or I get diarrhea or other things. And so she never is sure what she should be eating. Well, after me researching this topic, it's starting to make a whole lot of sense because what she shouldn't be eating, she's been eating all of her life. And guys, maybe you experience this too because you've been told that these are good foods. These are things that are good for you. Well, maybe they're not as good as you think. So like I said, watch to the very end. Make sure you like it, share it, and if it makes sense to you, get it out to other people because maybe you can save, change, and transform their lives too. So let's go ahead and dive in with what are lectins actually. Well, lectins are really plant compounds. They're proteins that the plant uses to really defend itself. Think about this. The plant has predators just like we do, just like other animals in the wild, but the plant can't run away. The plant can't swat at you and maybe hit you in the face or something. But what it can do is hit you in the stomach. So you might eat a plant and you realize that, you know what, I don't feel so good after eating this. And our ancestors knew really quickly which foods were good and which ones were bad because of how they felt. If they didn't feel good, they said, hey, you know what, I really shouldn't be eating that again. It doesn't do well with my system. Now, fast forward thousands and thousands and thousands of years to us, we're supposed to be smarter. No, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but we're really not, because what we've done is we've devised lots of different chemicals that we can put in our bodies to fool it. You know, if you're old as I am, how do you spell relief, right? You know what I'm talking about. It's not spelled R-E-L-I-E-F, it's R-O-L-A-I-D-S. Now, I'm not trying to give a little credit to the drug companies for this, but you spell it ROLAIDS. That's how we spelled relief, or acid indigestion. Or you used to see the guy in the commercials and his stomach would get really big and he would burp and he'd say he needed some Tums or something. And so all these different things we take antacids and we take ROLAIDS and Tums to fool our bodies into thinking that, yeah, this is supposed to be good for me. In fact, many times we pull up to the buffet and you're already starting to take something on the way there in the car, right? You know what I'm talking about. You're taking something just when you walk in the door, so that way you can pull right up to that buffet counter and just, strap on that feed bag and eat whatever you want and know you're going to feel okay because you fooled your body into thinking that everything's all right. So what lectins are, sometimes they're referred to as anti-nutrients. Animal studies suggest that lectins can reduce the body's ability to absorb nutrients. And I'll show you how that works, where the lectins can actually bind to the receptor sites of cells, not allowing your body to receive the nutrients. So even though you're getting a lot of calories, you're not getting the nutritional value from it. Lectins are thought to have evolved as a natural defense in plants, essentially as a toxin that deters animals from eating them. And like I said, that's really what it's about. These are plant chemicals, plant poisons in a way, And I know a lot of you out there are probably thinking, well, wait a minute, I've heard lectins are okay. Well, some lectins are, but some of them aren't. In fact, probably the most well-known lectin is gluten. So you know there's a lot of people who are gluten insensitive or gluten intolerant, or maybe have outright celiac disease. So you know that a lot of these lectins really aren't good for you. And some of you might say, you know what, I've heard there's not a problem with them. I get along fine with them. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't realize that some of the problems you're experiencing are from the lectins. Maybe you should try taking them out of your diet with an elimination diet. But for the most part, these should not be in our food. Now, some of them, you can cook it away. The way you cook it, you can, basically mitigate it. You can get it to where it's not as harmful to you. So cooking is one of the things that has helped us as animals to evolve to where we can grow faster, bigger, stronger, because we evolved using fire. So once you started adding fire to the mix, things that would normally have really felt bad in our stomachs, our ancestors were able to cook it away and make it palatable to us. So that was one of the ways that we were able to use lectins and still kind of get away with them. But I think we're not getting away with them too much longer anymore, because a lot of people are having a lot of issues with them. Now, what are some of the symptoms? Let's talk about that, because there is a lot, and there's a lot more than this, but I just wanted to put up the basic ones. Acid reflux and heartburn. I mean, if you're eating something and next thing you know, you're belching it up, it's telling you there's something about that food that you're not doing well with, and I guarantee you it's the lectins. Acne, I see so many kids today with all kinds of acne all over their faces, and I'm looking at what they're eating and I'm thinking, boy, if I could just, give you a better diet, you would not have that acne, but yet you think it's somehow related to the fact that you're a teenager, your hormones are changing, or maybe your dad had it, and or your mom had poor skin, and maybe that's why you have it, but there's really a lot of other reasons, and most likely it's what you're putting in your mouth in the form of food. Allergies, I mean, so many times people say, once again, well, my mom had these allergies, I have these allergies, my grandmother has them, and maybe there's a genetic predisposition, but it has a lot to do, once again, with what you're putting in your body as to how your body is epigenetically handling certain things. And that's something that we do in our office. If you're interested in it, once again, reach out to our office. But we epigenetically, which means we know what your genes are because we can do a DNA swab, a DNA sample. We send it off to the lab, we get the results back, and then once we know those results, we can put it into a report and let you know how you do with certain foods, athletic performance, sleep habits, supplementation, hormones, detox, all these different things, and we can then modify your lifestyle based on your genes, not one size fits all. So epigenetics means above the genome. So your genes are not your destiny. You can change it based on your lifestyle. Asthma, autoimmune disorders. We see this all the time. We've seen more autoimmune disorders than any other time in our history. When I was a kid, we never saw kids with allergies to peanuts and all these other different things. Now it's crazy. Pets, animals in general, people are allergic to grass all of a sudden now. And this wasn't like it when I was growing up as a kid, but autoimmune disorders like autoimmune thyroid disorders, rheumatoid arthritis, I see this all the time in practice. Crohn's disease, colitis, and irritable bowel. If you're struggling with that, if you get off of these lectins, which we're going to show you how to do that next week's video or the next video, make sure you're watching out for that. We're going to talk about what food you should be eating, what food you shouldn't be eating, and really a course of action. What are the protocols? You can clear a lot of that up, where you probably thought that you're going to have to suffer with that all your life, but you really don't. Bone loss, demineralization of your bone. So a lot of you are struggling with that, taking Fosamax and Boniva, but there's ways to do it naturally by changing your diet. Brain fog, memory issues. I see this all the time. People eat a certain thing and next thing you know, they're not themselves. They're irritable. They have brain fog. They have memory loss. They're not remembering simple things. So a lot of it has to do with your diet. A lot of our patients that we do neurofeedback training for their brain, we make sure we're changing their diet too, because if they're eating the same old thing while they're going through the neurofeedback training, they're still going to have the ADD, the ADHD, the anxiety, the depression, and things like that. Chronic fatigue, chronic pain. You've got joint pain, joint aches. A lot of that is diet related. It's not because of the weather. I hear people all the time saying, oh, the weather's changing, it's because of the weather. It's not because of the weather, because otherwise I would have it. Everybody would have it. It's not the weather. It's what you're putting into your body that's causing your body to become inflamed. That's what it is. Polyps, cramps, tingling, dementia, once again, depression, diabetes, dizziness. I see this all the time. My wife had this where she would eat a certain food and next thing you know, she would have dizziness from it. Her head would start to spin. She grabbed the table one time after having a certain kind of tea because the tea bags had flour. They would use flour to keep the tea bags from sticking together. And many times there's different flours and things and stuff that you're not aware of that you may have a sensitivity to, and it's a lectin, and not even realize you're reacting to it. Meanwhile, you're thinking, I'm just having tea. And yet after tea, I can't function normally. It's because of the lectins. Fibromyalgia, that's a big one. That's one of those mystery diseases. Nobody knows what's causing it. Try changing your diet and getting your lectins out. Gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, things like that. Barrett's esophagus, things like that. All related to lectin. Gastrointestinal discomfort, bloating, constipation. Last video I talked about leaky gut and how to solve that. I addressed lectins at that point. I kind of got your feet wet with a little bit. If you didn't watch that, go back and watch that video all about healing leaky gut. Has a lot to do with lectins and other things too, but lectins are a big part of it. Headaches, all the time. People, and you know it. You eat a certain food and next thing you know, you've got a headache from it. Read that. It's not because, once again, the weather changes or maybe the stress in your life. It could be directly related to the foods you eat. Heart disease, infertility, menstrual problems, once again, joint pain, low testosterone. Guys, I know you want to make sure you're keeping your testosterone up because you want to make sure your libido's good, of course, but also, too, making sure you're maintaining good quality muscle mass. And ladies, also, I know you're thinking, what do I need testosterone for? You do. Trust me. If your testosterone drops too low, you'll feel it, you'll know it, you'll have fatigue, you'll be irritable, you're not going to be able to keep muscle mass on, not like guys. You need about 1/10 of the amount of testosterone that guys do, but still, you need it. It's very, very important, if not more important than estrogen and progesterone. Low white blood cell count, I'll show you how it really interferes with your body's immune system and immune system response. Lymphomas, nutritional deficiencies, we talked about that earlier. Parkinson's, peripheral neuropathy, ringing in the ears, skin rashes. I mean, this is huge, guys. Like I said, eczema, skin rashes, dermatitis, psoriasis. You start to change your diet and get off of these things, I guarantee you're going to see your skin clear up. Weight loss and weight gain, that's probably the one that interests everybody. Because when you're eating these lectins and they're messing with your system, and I'm going to show you how they do that. They mess with your hormones. They cause, hormone mimicry and things like that. They mimic certain hormones. They're going to cause you to put on weight like crazy. They're also going to cause you to store fat a lot more. So watch for that. Once again, we're going to get to how that works. So there's 3 main ways that lectins attack us. Because you're probably thinking, okay, you're building these lectins up so much. But what do they really do? I mean, how dangerous can they be? I mean, they're just little plant compounds. I mean, how dangerous is a little plant? But here's the thing. They attack your body in 3 main ways. One is they get through the gut wall. What they do is they can bind, if they can get through the mucus layers in your body, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment of how we have defenses to fight against lectins, but one of it is the mucus membranes in our body. If they can get through the mucus in your intestines, and the problem is when we're eating lectins a lot and our body's secreting more and more mucus. In fact, a lot of you may experience this when you're eating something hot, like a hot pepper. All of a sudden your nose starts running. Me, I sweat on top of my head. It's pretty crazy. My kids are looking at me like, Dad, you got droplets of sweat on your head. But that's what happens. That runny nose, that mucus you start to make, that's the body trying to bind to the lectins. So when you eat lectins on a regular basis, you eventually start to really run out of mucus. You start to really wear down that mucus production, and now they can get in. And if they can bind to the intestinal wall, and once again, if you saw my video last time, I talked about the fact that the cells in the intestine are 1 layer thick before it goes through and into your bloodstream. So your intestines do not have much of a barrier between the outside world, all the bacteria poop, all the viruses, all the fungus, all the molds and things like that, and your body is 1 cell layer thick. And if they can pry those cells apart, they have what we call tight junctions. If they could pry those apart and get down in there and then get into your bloodstream, that's when they wreak havoc. That's leaky gut. So by prying apart the tight junctions, they can access lymph nodes. They can get to your glands and your bloodstream, causing the body's immune system to actually go into hyperdrive and start to attack itself, or at least stimulate an immune response. So right away, the immune system goes on high alert. Molecular mimicry, like I was saying, it can actually mimic other hormones and other molecules in your body. Lectins look like other proteins in the body, fooling the host immune system. They can bind to cell receptors, acting like a hormone, causing disruptions in the body, especially immune and fat cells. They can actually instruct the fat cells to store fat or tell the body's immune system's white blood cells to attack itself. So like I said, it can bind to receptor sites on a cell where it acts like insulin. It kind of looks like insulin. And when it does, it starts to let sugar into the cell. Well, a lot of times the body will say, okay, we've burned that sugar. Now what do? We just release the insulin off of the cell and the cell goes back to normal. Well, in this case, they actually stay on the cell and cause more trouble. So they can look like other hormones. They can act like other hormones and totally throw your body's immune system off, your fat storage off, and virtually any other kind of systems will become disrupted because of these lectins. Not only that, number 3, disrupt cellular communication. By binding to cell receptors on cell walls, either giving the wrong information or blocking the right information. So like I said, we have these receptors on our cells that are lock and key mechanisms that when a hormone comes near it, it locks in, it fits like a key, it opens the cell up, and the cell will let in or let out whatever it needs to do. The problem is these lectins mimic that. They disrupt the cellular communication from cell to cell, and next thing you know, it's causing all kinds of inflammation or disinformation, I should say, between cells. And you know what that's like when you're trying to talk on your cell to someone else, and all of a sudden you're in a low spot, or you're in an area where you're not getting a good signal, you're in an elevator, and all of a sudden you're going, hey, can you get some at the store today and get 2 dozen and get a case of and 3 or 4, whatever. You're not getting the message. And that's exactly what these do. They disrupt the communication between cells. Now, what kind of defense do we have? Because we're just not defenseless. We do have defenses, and unless the lectins can get through these walls of defenses, that's where they start to become a problem. Well, we've got 4 ways. 1, mucus. Like I said, the mucus in our body helps to bind to lectin. So one place is we have mucus in our nose, we have mucus in our saliva. Not only that, these mucuses combine together and then it coats our esophagus. So it starts in the mouth, it starts to come down the esophagus where we get more of the mucus production binding up the lectins. Stomach acid can actually digest certain lectins, okay? So a lot of lectins don't get digested and they go right through our system, but some of them do get digested, and that's with the stomach acid. But once again, if you're not eating properly and your stomach acid isn't healthy, but even worse yet, the bacteria in your body are not healthy, and we talked about it in the last video. If your bacteria in your body aren't the right type of flora, the friendly bugs, and yet you have the not so friendly bugs in there, you're not going to be able to basically immobilize these lectins like the bacteria do. The bacteria can actually consume the lectins, but if you have the wrong bacteria in there, they're not going to be able to consume them. You have to make sure your gut is healthy. And once again, go back and watch the last video where I talked about leaky gut and getting your gut microbiome healthy, whether it be on the inside or even on the outside. We've got to have healthy bugs. Bugs are our friend. Number 4, layers of mucus produced by cells throughout the intestinal tract acts like a barrier. And that's one of the biggest, because once again, like I said, we've got mucus throughout our whole gastrointestinal tract. If that mucus starts to break down because you're eating too much lectins, it will actually cause mucus production to slow or get used up. And now they can get into those tight junctions and open those up, allowing the stuff, the contents, sometimes the poisons, the bacteria poop, the viruses, the candida, the funguses, and the molds to get out of the intestinal tract and into the body. And like I said on the last video, the intestinal tract is not really part of your body. And I know you're thinking, well, of course it is. It's inside me. No, no, no. On the last video, go back and watch it. I talked about basically like having a hot dog with a hole drilled down the middle of it. Food goes in one end and out the other. But the meat on the side of the hot dogs, that's the body. That tube is not. It's just a pass-through. It's like a tunnel, okay? It's just a tunnel going through. It's not actually the body. Now, if there's perforations in that tube, once again caused by these tight junctures of the intestinal lining opening up, now the bad stuff can permeate it. It's like a colander. It just sieves through. It just literally drains through into the body and makes you sick. But that isn't the case if these junctures stay tight. But once again, you have to remove lectins or at least mitigate them so that they're not so dangerous. Now, what are sources of lectins? We're going to round it up with this, talk about the sources of it, where the 4 main areas they come from, and then next video we're going to talk about more of the food sources that you should have, the ones you shouldn't have, and maybe some of the protocols. So the biggest sources are beans and legumes, all right? So any of these beans, in fact, one of the biggest worst sources is kidney beans, the red kidney beans. In fact, if you don't cook those properly, they are pretty much poison to the body, okay? There's a lot of deaths that happen each year because of uncooked or undercooked, I should say, kidney beans. So kidney beans of any kind or beans and legumes. A lot of the different things that you eat. I grew up eating lentil soup thinking, well, that's so healthy for me. But that's a legume, okay? Peanuts are a legume because they grow underground, okay? Grains. Now, I know you're thinking, but Dr. Nick, I got to have my healthy whole grains. My doctor tells me to eat my wheat bread, whole wheat bread. I got to have all the full grain. And that's actually the worst. A lot of the countries that get away with eating grains, different Asian countries, India, things like that, they don't use whole grain rice. They use white rice because they know the majority of the lectins are in the husk. They get rid of that. They don't use it. They're smart. Over here, we're thinking we're doing the right thing because we have healthy whole grains. They're not healthy at all. So any of these grains, your corn, your wheat, your barley, any of those, no go. And once again, we're going to talk about it on the video next time. Dairy. Now, dairy's not overall bad, but here's the thing. Cows are designed to grow really big, really fast. Not only that, there was a genetic mutation in cows causing what we call casein A1 cows. Casein A1 cows, they started breeding them more because you know what? They have a greater yield. They're hardier. They do better. But at the same time, it's not what we're designed to eat. Our ancestors, especially if you came from Europe, where my ancestors came from in Italy, they used casein 2 cows. Casein 2. That's what our bodies are designed to eat. So many of you who are lactose intolerant may find that it has nothing to do with the lactose. It's the type of cow you're consuming or type of cow, the milk you're consuming. So switch, if you're going to use any kind of dairy, switch to casein 2 cows. Okay, and you can get that from Whole Foods and a lot of your different grocery stores. I think Publix and Kroger, if you're out in my area, has it or look for it and buy you. And then nightshades, okay? Nightshades are also, you're thinking, but wait a minute, Dr. Nick, I love tomatoes. Aren't tomatoes supposed to be so good for you? They're good for you because they have lycopene, an antioxidant. But here's the problem. The skin and the seeds aren't good for you. Cucumber, skin and seeds aren't good for you. Peppers, if you notice and you go to an Italian restaurant, or it never dawned on me growing up Italian, that when we ate red peppers, they were always roasted and peeled, and the seeds were taken out. So if you go buy a jar of red peppers, they're peeled and roasted and de-seeded. Never dawned on me, but that's why they did that, because Italians knew back then, take the stuff out. Get this out of it because that's where the problem lies. So cooking tomatoes, you take the skin and you take the seeds out. That's just what you do. You strain it out when you're making a sauce. Not just because you don't want skin in it, it's because it's not healthy for you. Things like eggplants, and once again, cucumbers, anything that's got a lot of seeds and skin, okay? Basically a fruit. Eggplants are a fruit, cucumbers are fruit, tomatoes are fruit. I know you're thinking it's a vegetable, but it's not. These things, peppers, are a fruit, okay? So these things are designed to harm you because of the type of seeds they have in it. So you want to peel it and you want to take the seeds out. And that's probably the best thing you can do to make these more palatable. We'll talk about how to make these more palatable on the next video. We'll talk about how to cook that, and at least you basically immobilize the lectins, if you will. Put some handcuffs on them so they don't hurt you so bad. So if you have to have those favorite foods, you at least know what to do best with them. So anyway, guys, like I said, share this out to people. I know you know a lot of friends that are probably struggling with this. They didn't realize why they have brain fog, why their eczema doesn't clear up, why they've got joint pain. It's all because of these lectins. So like I said, share it out to people, save, change, and transform their lives without even having to risk your own. So anyway, guys, make sure you check out my other videos. If you like this one, I'm sure you'll love those too. If you want some help, like I said, give our office a call, or you can also schedule with me down in the link below. Anyway, guys, I love and appreciate you. Thanks for watching. This is Dr. Nick. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.